All right. Hello and welcome to the Anime X-Ray Podcast, Episode 2, Part 2 of our analysis of Mushishi. I hope everybody is doing good. I am your host, Cody, and with me, as always, is Josh. How you doing?
Oh, not too bad.
All right. Before we get into it, how has your week been? Anything that's been going on in your life?
Not really. Just got sidetracked on watching this.
You
Ended
mentioned
up
watching.
watching. Yeah, I was watching. That time I got reincarnated as slime.
Oh, all right, all right.
Yeah.
I've got some interesting opinions about that anime. Mostly, I didn't care for it. I thought that the with the fact of like One Punch Man, the fact he was OP was balanced by the comedy kind of helped.
Yeah.
This is just like he's just OP. He just gets powers like Kirby like all the fucking time, and
Yeah. It's
he
definitely just isekai trash.
yeah, and he just like it doesn't ever seem to like go anywhere that really interests me. Then again, I do have to say that it was actually a better anime than some of the other ones I have seen, because I've seen some trash. Don't just go randomize on Mal and just go with it, because that usually ends up being bad.
Yeah, no.
So
Would
for
not recommend.
Yeah. So for me this week, I've had a couple of interesting things happen. The most notably is I took a shower. Um this was Sunday, and I get out and I went into the kitchen. I was talking with my wife and we heard something. Like, what is that? I determined that it was the breaker box, and the sound I was hearing was arcing. Like, when I knew what it was, like, I'm like, oh shit. So I killed the mains of the house, flipped all the breakers off, and then flipped the main on, and then flipped all the breakers back one by one, and figured out that it was the hot water heater that was doing it. uh, we have a electric water heater, and you'll find this out pretty quickly because you just moved and you just bought your first house. But having a house is nice because you own it, but it sucks because you own it. And thankfully, with this situation, it was a pretty easy fix. The breaker had just needed replaced, but the breaker itself, actually, because it arced, it welded itself to the breaker, so the cable or the cord had to be cut a little bit and then stripped back out. And I know how to replace a breaker. That's not the issue. Because it arced, I was like, I'm gonna go ahead and call an electrician, because he's gonna be able to do a safety inspection, make sure everything looks good. And
Right.
he replaced it, and he said everything else looks good. He was surprised that everything looked as good as it was, considering what happened. But he said that that breaker, because it's a two pole, which means it's got two switches, one side failed, so the other one was arcing. I can't remember what he exactly said, but it was arcing because one side had failed. So yeah, that was pretty interesting. I didn't have hot water for like 3 or 4 days. I had to call a bunch of electricians, and either they were 2 months out, or they were on vacation or something like that. Finally, one of them did call me back, and they're like, "Yeah, we can come out, but it's going to be like super fucking early." I was like, "Yeah, I don't care. Like, I want this replaced. I don't care if you come at 2 a.m. to replace this damn thing." Beyond
Yeah.
beyond that, just been doing my streaming thing. Shameless plug, since I'm mentioning it now, but I do stream on Twitch 3 days a week at twitch.tv/codeman_87. But that's pretty much been it. That was kind of a scary moment with the breaker, because that could have caused a fire had I not caught it.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, see, I figured out the whole home ownership thing pretty quick too,
Yeah.
because when I bought the house, the inspector didn't realize that the hot water heater didn't work. So we moved in, and I had to instantly replace the hot water heater.
Oh, fun. Was it
Yeah,
electric or gas?
electric.
Oh, yeah. I'm pretty
So,
sure I'm right when I say that electric are more expensive. Not only in cost of ownership, because they are, especially in the area we live in, but just the units themselves are more expensive.
right.
When I had
They
mine,
originally were gonna do a gas for mine, and then realized that I didn't have like the right hookups or something for it.
yeah, yeah, I had mine replaced, and they because of the guy said that they probably built the house around the hot water heater, the where they had it, but they had to tear the the door off and part of the wall to get it put in. I'm gonna fix you here as soon as I figure out where the button is, because you're turning into rainbow puke. There's a button for that.
Yeah,
Uh-oh.
this looks interesting.
Where's the rainbow puke for you? I know where it is on mine. Oh, there it goes. It
Yeah,
fixed itself. Cool.
that was weird.
Yeah, it'll do that. I am slightly familiar with OBS Ninja, considering I do listen to a couple podcasts where they do use it. So it'll do that every once in a while, and hopefully it doesn't do that too often. But all right, with life updates out of the way, why don't we get into the meat of this podcast, which is episodes 6 through 10 of Mushishi season 1. You and I were talking offline, and I think we both agreed. No, I don't think we know. I know we both agree that this set of episodes was not anywhere near as strong as the first 5.
Yeah, they started off really weak. Then they started to get better towards the end.
Yeah,
Like I liked the last two a lot better than the first three.
yeah, the last episode for sure actually held my
Yeah.
interest. The last the Yeah, at least the first 3, I was just, my ADD was just on fire. I could not pay
Yeah.
attention to them. That doesn't mean that they're bad episodes. It's just that they weren't nearly as strong. But
Yeah.
episode 1 is titled, or sorry, not episode 1, but episode 6 is titled Those Who Inhale the Dew. And I'm trying to skim my notes here to remind myself what this episode was. Oh, okay, so this is the Living God episode. So the Living God is an interesting premise, because basically this girl, or this person that is affected by this Mushi, they end up basically growing old and dying, and then being reborn anew in the morning. And this father, I guess this family rather, has this tradition of like basically extorting people to make these people like pay, um not pay, but help me out here. I'm sorry. They were giving tributes to
Oh,
the
yeah,
living
yeah.
god. Yeah,
They were like donating
they were
like
giving
parts of
tributes.
their oh, what's the word for it?
But yeah, they
Like
were,
the stuff they were growing.
yeah. And in some cases they were giving everything they owned, in the hopes that this living god would actually like heal them, which in my opinion made no sense. I am refreshing us,
Yeah.
by the way.
All
But
right.
yeah, it made no sense because like nobody seemed to ever be cured by this ritual that she was doing where she was like becoming old and then she would become anew and then she had this puff of smoke that would come out of her mouth, which if I recall that's like the spores for that particular mushi that she was affected by.
Um, yes. It was so it only had like a lifespan of 1 day.
Yep.
So it would die, and then when the next one like hatched or whatever, that's what the spore would be. Was the next one taking effect on her. So she
Yeah.
was like constantly like caught by it and let go within a day.
Yeah, and the weird thing is at the end of it, she chooses to actually become the quote unquote living god again because she's uncomfortable with just, living life normally. She had gotten so used to it, which was it's kind of fucked up when you think about it.
Yeah. Uh that plot point specifically was what made me like not care about this episode whatsoever. It
Yeah. Like
was like, okay, we literally accomplished nothing here. What a throwaway episode.
yeah, I definitely didn't like who would choose that? Like sure you wake up completely refreshed like you've been reborn, but I don't know. I don't feel like that's something that like a normal person would choose because there was more than just her that was affected. Ginkgo cured a bunch of other people that were like devout believers that they kind of like shoved away, and I think it were they in the cave if I remember right?
The Mushi were in the cave.
Where were the devout believers? They were just in a separate
They
village, weren't
just
they?
had like the three of them. There was like three other ones that they just had living on a different part of the island or something.
Yeah, and once Ginkgo cured them, they're like, "Fuck this shit." I don't
Yeah,
want. So
he cured him for like he was there for like a whole month because of like the way the tides worked, I guess.
yeah,
And
he
he
kept
would
getting
like
landlocked.
cure them. Yeah, he would cure them, and then like new cases would pop up because people kept doing it.
Yeah, it's this episode felt like a bunch of like if you would stop fucking going in there and stop fucking going to the living god, you would be fine. Like this
Yeah,
is it's like smoking kills cancer. Smoking gives you cancer. So hey, maybe don't smoke. That kind of like an obvious thing, but like apparently, people just continue to do it. Um,
it was
so
it
the
was such a just a weird episode.
so the girl's name was Akoya, and her father's name, which I don't think he was mentioned. Can we just agree that her father was an absolute prick and a douchebag and a terrible father, and I fucking hated him?
Yeah, it was some anime dad of the year shit there.
Yeah. Goku ain't got nothing on him, but he does eventually die, right? Because he does get affected by the Mushi. Is that what it was? It's been a few days since I watched
Um,
this.
no. They told the villagers, and the villagers like caught him with the flower coming out of the cave, and they killed him.
Oh, okay. Because I just have in my notes like father dies. I couldn't remember why.
Yeah, no, they were like, "Hey, he's like forcing her to be the living god. Go to the cave." And then they went there and they're like, "Holy shit, they weren't lying. See, he has the flower. Kill him."
Yeah, yeah, and yeah. Then she goes, "Oh, he's got the flower," and then this whole thing happens where she remembers him giving her that flower, and then she takes the flower and she becomes the living god again. And the boy, the I guess what would you call him, like? the love interest, he's just like,
Oh,
oh,
Nagi.
he's just like, she's happier this way, so okay, whatever. If she just, wants to live in a stupor and literally die every single episode or every single day, I mean, then okay, she's happy, so I guess whatever. This
Yeah.
episode was just the tone of it and everything about it was just really off to me, and it just felt so weak considering the first really strong 5 episodes.
Yeah.
The thing also about it, Ginkgo does, I know I alluded to this, but Ginkgo does take the Mushi out of her once he figures out what's going on, and she's like, I don't like this. I don't want to be like this. I want to be. So, like, I guess he explained it like the Mushi harmonized with her lifespan, or the lifespan of the Mushi harmonized with her. Either way, but he says that like the heartbeats of creatures are all the same, but lifespans are different depending on the speeds of the heartbeats and things like that. So she was just kind of like at this point used to being in this state. But
Oh, yeah, he said something along the lines of every living creature has the same amount of heartbeats. So like you would get like if they were like if the Mushi was in her, they would have the same amount of heartbeats, and because their lifespan was only a day, it sped her lifespan or shortened her lifespan dramatically.
yeah, I this whole episode just, it didn't leave a sour taste in my mouth. It just
Yeah.
did not feel anything like the first 5 episodes. It
Yeah.
I can't really describe it any other way. So I think we're just giving this one, because we don't rate on this, but I'm giving this a meh out of 10.
Yeah,
Like, this
that's
deserves no
kind of where I'm
number.
at.
Uh
Oh, another thing that annoyed me about this episode, they fixed her, and then they're like, "Hey, you have to hide that you're fixed for 3 days."
oh
And then I'm
yeah,
like,
yeah.
wait, what? How is she supposed to like pretend to get old?
Yeah, and the father's like, "Oh, I figured you'd be old at this hour," and she's like, "Father, I have been cured."
Yeah, I was like,
It's like,
way to like make that happen, Jesus.
yeah, at least like lock your door or something.
Yeah,
But yeah, the father stole the show, and not in a good way. He was just definitely a terrible father. Fuck him. Like, absolutely fuck him. He literally used his daughter to extort money and gifts and tributes out of the villagers, and he's like, yeah, she'll cure you just by like growing old. Just give her your corn and your golden clothes. And I don't think anybody was cured. And the love interest, like, I forgot his name again already.
Nagi.
Nagi. Yeah, they his mother was super sick, and they gave literally everything they had, and she still died. She
Yeah,
died very horribly. So, yeah. There's nothing more to say about this episode. I hate, like, I'm not shitting on this episode, but like, I'm really looking at this episode with a scope of, like, compared to what we've seen so far, and this doesn't even match up at all. Not even close.
I am totally shitting on
uh
it.
you sound a lot better when you bring that closer, by the
Oh,
way.
really?
Yeah. Oh, did I lose you?
My mic got unplugged for like a second.
Oh, cool. All right, so let's move on to Raindrops and Rainbows. And this one was much more interesting to me. It's still not that strong of an episode, but we talk to, or we see this man. His name is Koro, and which I guess Koro means like of rain and rainbows, which in Japan doesn't, or Japanese doesn't Koro mean death? You know, Koro Sensei and all
I'm
that.
not sure. In the in the sub, they literally said his name meant Rainbow Man.
Oh, Rainbow Man, that's what it was.
Yeah. It's just like a little on the nose, but okay.
Yeah. So I don't think he ever had a name, but Koro's father, Ginkgo, meets Koro under a tree, and they say, "Hey, entertain us with a story. What are you doing with that jug?" And he goes to tell this story about his father, how he discovered this rainbow coming out of the ground, and he's like, "Oh, cool!" And he just goes to touch it, which I'm not gonna blame the father for that, because literally, like, I would try and touch that too. Like, it was
Right.
literally just like a flow of energy coming out of the ground. But after that, his father was like in this trance like state, and anytime it would even remotely rain, he would just go like lunatic and just go running into the rain. He's like, I've got to find the rainbow. I got to find the rainbow.
Yeah, he could sense the rain.
Yeah. And he could also see rainbows that nobody else could. Koro showed that he reacted to them, but he didn't actually see them like his father did, but he did believe his father. But yeah, the symptoms that this guy had, he would literally like be gone for days because he'd go chasing after the rain and chasing after the rainbows. He would see rainbows all over the place, and he had this insatiable thirst. And then eventually he succumbed to this because he just got so weak from doing this all the time, and he couldn't quench his thirst. And it was actually kind of gruesome if you think about it. And I do want to point out one other thing, that the father's voiced by Christopher Sabat, which I fucking love. Anytime I hear,
Oh, was he really?
yeah, yeah, he is in the English, and I every time I hear Christopher Sabat, I'm like, yep, there he is. Because if it's a Funimation dub, I always look for him. He's one of the only voices that I
Yeah.
can absolutely like tell from a mile away. Him and I just
The
lost his
only
name.
one the only one I can pick out like from a mile away without even having to think about it is Todd Habercorn.
Yeah, Todd Habercorn. Thank you. That was the other one I was trying to think of. So,
Yeah, like literally anytime he shows up, I'm like, oh hey, it's Natsu.
so when Koro gets done telling them about this, the one guy is like, "Cool story, bro. Needs a better ending."
Yeah.
But Ginkgo, he takes interest in this, and he literally goes, you know what? I'm bored. I've got a couple months. I'm not doing anything. Change of pace. I'll help you until fall." Because I guess it was like somewhere in the middle of summer. He's like, "I'll help you until fall." Which is like, oh, okay. You got nothing better to do? Like, you don't have
Yeah.
any, Mushishi business to take care of?
Yeah, he's
Okay.
he's just like, I'll help you till fall. Oh yeah, you're paying for my food.
Yeah. But he did mention some interesting things about the Mushi, which I need to go down here. Oh, he called it a coda.
Yeah.
It's called a coda, and what he described it as is it's actually the opposite of a rainbow in every way. Where a rainbow, you can only see it if your back is to the sun. This you can see when you are facing the sun, and the colors are also reversed. So that information alone was actually very valuable to Koro, because that narrowed down anything he saw by half. He wouldn't have to chase after these these rainbows that he knew just by looking at them and looking at the color pattern or looking at the direction of the sun. So that was actually kind of an interesting tidbit. And
Yeah.
the fact that Ginkgo said that no, I'm getting ahead of myself. Koro does say that he's been searching for 5 years, which at this point, like his dad is long gone. He was in a terrible state, and apparently his dad was a famous bridge builder. And they mentioned that his dad also had a son, other than Koro, that was actually pretty good at designing bridges. But Koro had no interest in it. But yeah, I guess he hurts his hand.
Yeah, I was gonna say he quit because he hurt his hand.
Yeah, and he's like, this is the nail in the coffin. I'm not good at this. I don't want to do this. And then he just goes traveling around to find this rainbow, to capture it, to bring it back to his father, who most likely in the state he left him in is dead, if he even, because they didn't show or say that he died, but I would imagine that he either left before he died, or most likely he left after he died. But one of the things he did say, and it was actually very, very quick, is he wanted to prove the village wrong and prove that his dad wasn't crazy. And that actually makes a lot of sense, because if this guy's just running in the rain and chasing after rainbows and is just this crazy deranged person when rain is coming, the village is gonna talk. The village is gonna think you're nuts, and they're going to be like, okay, we're gonna just stay away. Like that's you could almost like see like the mother and the son or the daughter or whatever, the kid, where the mother like sees him and like pulls the kid close and is like, come on honey, let's keep on walking, just don't mind the strange man.
Yes, if you don't look at the homeless person, they won't ask you for money.
Yeah. Oh man, when I went to Chicago, like every single block had at least 3 of them just in a row. And if you gave one of them money, like you had to give the others money, because they'd be like, hello, like, seriously. So and when I was on this trip, they just said, don't look at them, don't look.
See, where I live, I end up getting a bunch of them, or like a bunch of people that will be like, hey, I'll give you this if you give me like $10. And like you get people selling you some like nice boots or like Bluetooth speakers, stuff like that. It's kind of weird.
I work with a guy that spent his paycheck on stupid shit, and then he go, oh, I have no money for bills. And he bought a PlayStation 5, and he was not balancing his budget very well. And I was just sitting there, because he was kind of on the verge of quitting. I was just like, please tell me he has no fucking money and that he's willing to sell his PS5. I would have bought it. I would have lowballed him to hell. Like $400 plus the games. Take it or leave it. But that, isn't your electricity $400? You want it or not? I've never done that to someone, but I have seen that at work, where people will do that to people because they're idiots. They just spend their money and they just go, oh, I got paid. I've got $600. I'm going to go buy a PlayStation 5. And then they're like, oh, I don't have that $600 to spend on my rent.
Yeah.
Dumbasses.
Yeah.
So, and here's one of the, going back to the anime, here's one of the cool things that I thought about this anime this episode, is Koro heard rather, the rain is coming while Ginkgo and him are searching, and it's like dusk or not dusk, dawn,
Hmm.
and he heard the rain is coming. He's like, "Ginkgo, get the fuck up!" and they ran, and they find this Mushi. I sort of a Mushi, sort of not in a way. He called it a I'm gonna butcher this, a Nagore Mono, and I guess it's where I rewound this like several times, but I guess Koki, which I guess is like the basis of Mushi. He's mentioned this a couple times, but they're like the basis of Mushi life. They mix with the life stream and they form this rainbow like stream. And I guess that this thing is technically alive, but it's not, it doesn't have a purpose. So I guess in a way it's, I guess like I would almost attribute it to like a plant where it's alive, but it doesn't have like a consciousness or anything like that. But he also kind of attributed it to a phenomena like a flood or a storm. So I'm not really
Yeah.
sure what that was. Like, did you get anything out of it?
It. I didn't get a whole lot more out of it than that. Um, they really just didn't explain it a whole lot because it was right at the end of the episode.
Yeah, yeah,
Um, yeah, we skipped a whole lot of just running around to get to this point.
yeah. I kind of skipped a lot of the
Oh
just
yeah,
going
no,
back and
no, like
forth.
yeah, it was literally just like them explaining the beginning and then just rainbow chasing.
Yeah, yeah.
Like there was literally three different scenes where it's like, well, not that rainbow.
Yeah. And sometimes they went for it and sometimes they didn't, but yeah, I skipped most of that, but they spent
Yeah.
significant amount of time looking for this rainbow. It wasn't like the next day. It had to have been at least a couple weeks before they
Oh
found this
yeah.
rainbow. There is no way. And based on the way they were kind of showing things, I'm pretty sure that they had been searching for quite some time.
Yeah, this episode, just the setup for it was solid. I don't want to say good, but it was solid.
Yeah.
And then it was just like watching a fetch quest in real time.
Yeah. I think the payoff was part of, or sorry, some of the best parts of it, but at the same time, like it was kind of like okay, like we saw it, like he couldn't capture it, he couldn't bring it back. Did I lose you? I lost connection again. Are you kidding me? All right, and we're back. My internet. I need to figure out what the heck is going on when I'm streaming. It cuts out, and it's never, there's never a rhyme or reason to it. I streamed all yesterday, and it was perfectly fine. Great. More editing for me. Anyway, so the when they found the rainbow, it was kind of a moment where he kind of closed the chapter on his father's journey or his mission or something like that, because he they couldn't take that back, and they couldn't even touch it. Toro goes into it,
Yeah.
and Ginkgo just like pulls him out, and he's like, "Dude, you can't touch that thing." Which he was inside of it. He was inside of it. How did it not attach to him? I don't understand that,
Maybe he
because
just got lucky or something. I don't
he
know.
fucking had to have. But after that, it kind of just ends with a like a happy ending where he, I guess, goes back to, it wasn't that village, it was a different village, wasn't it?
Um, I don't. I think it might have been the same village because the bridge, the bridges that they were building were for the village right there because they kept trying to build the bridge in the same spot.
Yeah, it kept getting washed away.
Yeah.
but he builds a bridge where I guess they can take sections of it and let the water through, and then when the flood was done, they could just put the sections back, which is actually kind of clever. I'm
Yeah.
honestly not gonna lie on that. It would have been actually probably a little more efficient if they'd had like a drawbridge with two halves that just kind of split.
Yeah.
But I mean, yeah, that works too, I guess. But overall, I thought this was a better episode than episode 6, but still not as strong as the last set of episodes we watched.
Yeah, it was more interesting. Like the setup was more interesting, but like the whole back half of the episode with them running around trying to find a rainbow was just kind of boring.
Yeah, thankfully it wasn't all that long though. It was only what a
Yeah.
couple 5 minutes that they, because they kind of, I don't want to say that they did like a montage, but it was kind of like a condensed soup version of what they probably went through when it came to
Yeah.
searching, because they there was so much travel that had to have happened, chasing after the right clouds, chasing after the right places.
Yeah.
But who knew that he had the ability all along to just sense, because his father's voice was, in his head going, "The rain is coming, the rain."
Yeah.
So yeah, this was a decent episode. I enjoyed it. I can't say I thoroughly enjoyed it, but I enjoyed it.
Yeah, it was an episode.
Let's move on to episode 8, and can I just say right off the bat with episode 8, his wife is a fucking bitch. she's a bitch. Like, she's like, I don't want to live here. I don't want to live here. And when they do, I am getting a little bit ahead of myself, but fuck it. But when they do go out on this boat, and she gets taken away by the Mushi, she does not want to come back. She can only find shore if she wants to come back, and she never wants to come back. So she was not happy with him at all.
Yeah. It was it was definitely a better episode than the last one.
You thought so? I thought it was
Yeah.
I thought it was just slightly weaker than the previous episode.
I think the episode was just more consistently interesting. I think the last episode had higher high points, but I think the overall quality of this one was just higher.
Fair enough. So why don't um we get into the middle of this, because we kind of like did the beginning and end.
Yeah.
So let's see here, just kind of skimming through. Yeah, so when they're on the boat, because really the episode starts when they are on the boat. You just got like a little bit of setup at the beginning before that. But these, what they call snakes, when they didn't understand what they were, they attack the boat. There's this fog, and the wife gets pulled away, and this is Shiro that we meet and Ginkgo finds, but he's been waiting for his wife for 2.5 years. Is that
Yeah.
right? Yeah, two and a
Yeah.
half years. Which, goddamn, dude, like, you are a devout husband that definitely deserves somebody else, because she does not give a shit about you. Like, she did not at all want to be there, and she very much let it be known, to the point where she didn't even want to be with him anymore, and she was willing to just get whisked away into Mushi land, or wherever the hell she ended up. They never say. But
Yeah.
she's just like, yeah, you know what? Yeah, if you're gonna live here, I'm not. That was her out, and she took it.
So I think we should explain like why we are saying this about her. So when the haze that would come out like on the sea, uh like when it would come out, it would manifest in such a way that like if you wanted to return to the land that you could or that you would come from, you could still see it, but if you didn't, you would lose sight of it.
Yep. Yep.
And then she very obviously did not want to go back. So she more or less like just does not go back to him when he's calling out to her.
Yeah. I think does that event happen every 2.5 years, or was there events before that? Because I think that she could only return during one of those events where the Mushi are traveling from the mountains to the ocean.
Yeah, so it's every it's the same type of mushi.
Yeah.
Uh and every 1,000 days they would switch between living in the ocean and the mountains. And during that switch is when the haze would happen.
Was it 1,000 days? I thought it was 1,000 years they had to spend in the
They they
ocean and the
l- they
mountains.
live for 1,000 years,
Oh, okay.
and then they descend it every uh yeah a th- I don't is that what it was?
I believe Ginkgo said that it was you had this Mushi, which is the Umisen Yamisen. They live for 1,000 years in the water and in the mountains, and if they do that, they become dragons. So they have to live 1,000 years in both places. Whether that's at once or not, I'm not certain, because this would be a once in a lifetime event for them. But I believe that there is an event, there has to be, where they're going in between and they're meeting.
Oh, I bet I know what it is. So you know how there was like a ton of snakes in the water?
Yeah.
I bet it's one of those, and then one of them from the mountain are coming down.
Mm-hmm.
And every 2 to 3 years or 1,000 days, is when the two meet.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
They meet and they separate again, or depending on how
no,
long in their journey
they become a single Mushi is what it
they
was.
become a single Mushi. Okay.
Yeah, the two come together and become a single
You
one.
could tell how much I paid attention to this episode, because this episode was just kind of there for me.
I
But
mean, yeah,
the 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 characters were the interesting part for me, especially like the devout husband, and just the I forgot to put that back on do not disturb. But the devout husband and the wife who didn't want to be with him because she didn't want to be in that village. But
yeah,
overall, like when Shinru goes back out into the water with Ginkgo, and they do find her, in big air quotes there, she's not real. She's actually the Mushi, which is really weird. Apparently, they're able to shapeshift too, and I think
yeah.
that's kind of because like they wanted him to see what he wanted to see, so he would come with them. Because
Yeah.
Ginkgo says, "Where's land?" and he goes, "This way." And Ginkgo points the opposite way and goes, "No, it's this way. You need to get away from her. She's dangerous. She's not who she says she is." And I think that was the Mushi kind of tricking him so they could take him with them. And I don't
Yeah.
know if the wife had a similar experience, or she's just like, as the boat was going, she's just flipping flipping him off, and she's going into the distance. But
See,
yeah.
thing that like brought what was his name, Shiro, kind of back though, was his wife was like, "Oh, you left me here drifting. for 3 days. And then he was just like, oh, that was not 3 days.
Yeah,
That was 3 years.
this is the second episode where they talk about the lifespan of the Mushi being different than us. But this is on the opposite scope, and I kind of wanted to talk about this one the most with this episode. With the episode 6, you had this girl who had a Mushi in her who had a 1-day shelf life. My fucking internet drop again. No, it didn't. I'm gonna keep that in where I'm like, is my internet fucking dropping again? But they had a 1-day life where these have thousands of years, it seems, because they have to live 1,000 years in the mountains and 1,000 years in the water. And to them, it's just one. It's not even the same thing, because yeah, it was like 2.5 years for him, but it was 3 days for her. So that is a long or big difference, really. And I was trying to like sit there when they said that. I was trying to figure out like what's the time compression difference on this. And then I'm like, I can't math. I'm not even gonna try to do that.
Some hyperbolic time haze.
Yeah. Stop it. But yeah, but at the end, Shiro does move on. He does find another girl, and they do kinda almost looks like they're gonna start a family. Almost looked like they were starting to live together there for a little bit there. But one of the weirdest things is when the possessions, the boat washed up, and the other girl is like, "Hey, check this out! Isn't this pretty?" And he's like, "Yeah, that's pretty." And I'm just sitting here going, "Yeah, that's his ex-wife's dress."
Yeah. She's like, "Wow, this kimono is really high quality. Check it out. Doesn't it look great?" And he's just like,
Yeah, great. Keep it if you want.
he's like, "It sure does look pretty."
What do you do in that situation? Like, really?
I mean, you got two choices. It's either that looks pretty, or it looked great on my wife too.
Yeah. But like, if you said to her what happened, then is she really even gonna believe you?
I mean, I feel like she'd have to, because she knows of like she lives on the island too. She knows what happens.
She knows that things wash up. I don't think she knows the full story. Not even by.
I mean, I guess that's possible too.
Yeah, but it's also one of those like it's too crazy to make up kind of a thing. So maybe she
Yeah.
would believe him. I don't know. The whole episode was kind of weird, especially with the whole dynamic of the husband and wife. Like
Yeah.
I could not imagine living with a woman like that. She was not easy to please. She did not want to be with him.
And see, the weird thing about that though is when he meets her again, and she's like the Mushi imposter. They're like, "Oh wow, I'm so sorry this happened. I do want to live with you." Like,
Yeah.
it made it seem like a very sincere apology, and then Ginkgo's just like, "That ain't it, bro.
Yeah.
That ain't it."
Because the Mushi were trying to get him to go with them. They were telling him whatever he needed to hear to want to
Yeah.
go. And he just hook, line, and sinker. If Ginkgo hadn't been there, the guy would be wherever these.
Yeah.
But that's the only thing that like kind of drives me nuts about this episode. They don't at all ever explain where they're going, what's happening to them. They're apparently in some sort of like stasis, or at the very least, like time is very, very slow for them. but they never explain like where they go. They just
Yeah.
they're just gone for like 2 years, 2.5 years. That's the weirdest part about the whole thing for me.
Yeah,
But
it was an episode.
yeah, yeah, overall, it was an episode.
Yeah.
Episode 9, I thought was a little bit more interesting. You kind of had like a bittersweet ending with this one. It wasn't really
It
like a,
definitely felt more like the first 5 episodes.
yeah, it kind of felt more like they were going back to form with this one, and episode 10 really feels like it. But do you kind of want to take over this episode?
Sure. So, this episode starts with Ginkgo walking up on a village and going, "Hey, I'm hungry. Do you have any food you could sell?" And them going, "Aha! We don't have anything. Check the next village. They are getting a crazy harvest." Um, and then another farmer like nearby is like, "Hey, don't tell him that. That's not cool. They're cursed." They get these insane harvests right after a natural disaster. So obviously that piques Ginkgo's interest, and
Yeah.
he heads there to figure out what's actually going on. And it turns out that the people are making a sacrifice, I guess is one way to put it. Um
They're
the
unknowingly,
yeah,
the
the
only person who
gods
knows is the
are
priest.
yeah, the apparently to them the gods are gifting them a bountiful harvest. And then or no, the ancestors are gifting them a bountiful harvest and then taking someone from them as like payment. And
Yeah,
they are just okay with this.
yeah. Well, again, the only person who really makes this choice is the priest. No one else knows that this is a choice. They just kind of act like this is a fact of life. This
Yeah.
happens, someone grows a tooth, they're going to die, and we get a shit ton of food. Cool. Like, sucks for them, but
Yeah. So this tooth, um, it's just randomly pops up in the roof of their mouth, and then they just start getting really sick until this tooth falls out, and then they die. And then that tooth is what they use as the seed to create these bountiful harvests. And each year after it's planted, it like chooses another victim.
yeah, the victim seems to be someone who's weakest usually, but they
Yeah.
don't say that it's always the weakest. That just seems to be the noticeable pattern.
Um. No, I think the way like I think it was they literally said that it was the weakest one that always goes. That's why you see the priest taking poison, so he ends up being weaker than the kid's mom.
Yeah, I think he does that out of guilt because he's taken at this point. He said that he became the head priest 20 years ago. So
Hmm.
he's taken many lives, which Ginkgo does attribute that to murder when he says, you know, that what this does, and
Yeah,
you're killing them. And it's a classic, do you save the one or do you save the many type situation. But this one just seems to have a twist to it, and that
yeah, it
you don't
was.
exactly know who it is you're going to sacrifice out of the many.
Yeah,
Kind of like Russian roulette, I guess.
yeah, it was like the trolley situation mixed with Russian roulette.
Pretty much. But The other thing that I'm kind of confused about, they never really touch too much on this, but apparently a Mushi master came a long time ago before even the current priest's predecessor. Like this was long ago. He gave them that seed, and not only did he give them that seed, this Mushi master made it. He made it using the Kiro, I think they called it the life energy, mixed in with this seed, and he creates this seed that does this thing. Like it kills someone who enjoys the harvest.
Yeah.
So I have to ask, like, why? Why? Because I Ginkgo doesn't outright say it, but he almost alludes to that being kind of like, I wouldn't say like a shunned practice, but it wasn't like a good practice to do.
Yeah, he says that as a Mushishi, uh, using the Mushi for your own personal games is like the biggest taboo. Um, and willingly letting other people do it is also a pretty big taboo,
Yeah,
which is why he was confused by it.
this actually does tie back into episode, was it? Yeah, episode 6. You remember when Ginkgo said you don't deserve the Mushi if you're going to abuse them? Or I think I'm
Yeah,
very much paraphrasing, but he said that to the father. And here again, we're kind of seeing that where someone's using the Mushi for their own gain and they're paying a price for it. This price, they
yeah,
know what is happening, but with the father, like, I guess he kind of knew what the price was, but he was very much abusing the Mushi, where this guy was, but he wasn't doing it for a completely selfish reason.
yeah.
But yeah, the priest isn't very forthcoming about this seed. He's like, yeah, there's no seed. Like you're fine. Like you can move on. There's nothing here. And he's like, yeah, no, I don't believe you for one fucking second.
Yeah, he's like, you obviously know what the seed is because you told me it wasn't here. um, but this episode is where I started like really getting interested in it again. Um, because the head priest ends up like deciding to make the big sacrifice here and saying, "Hey, we've been working on like farming techniques for 20 years. I'm gonna give them one last good harvest and then rely on them to do it themselves."
Yeah,
Uh,
he seems to do it out of guilt. And
yeah.
this goes back to when, and I do want to call out that we see it a little bit before the opening. This is the first time that we've ever seen that, and the only time, because episode 10 goes back to the opening first. But
Mhm.
that was his wife who got the first tooth when he was
Mhm.
priest, I think.
Yeah,
I
the first year he used it, his wife ended up dying
Yeah,
because she was hiding an illness.
yeah. So he ends up poisoning himself. Ginkgo realizes this when he checks the poison out and realizes that it is indeed poison.
Yeah.
And he doesn't really nurse him back to health, but he kind of gets him back on his feet a little bit.
Yeah, just enough for the priest to be like, "Hey, here's my master plan."
Yeah,
And Ginkgo just kind of is like, "Yeah, okay, let's do it."
yeah, but Ginkgo also gives him kind of a other alternative to that, because he says that I'm not going to tell Sane what this is. I'm going to tell him to destroy this. And Ginkgo goes, "But what if you eat it?"
Or
But
but
he he does say this comes with a cost, and that's he's no longer going to be human, and he is going to be immortal. So I'm not
Yeah.
entirely sure if that means like he can be killed by like any means, like if he was able to be killed with a knife or anything. But he definitely can't age. They do mention that.
Yeah, because he just becomes kind of like a traveler trying to find new farming techniques.
Yeah, well, and he's also sharing those techniques with not only that village, but any village he comes across.
Yeah. Which I guess is a good way to end that episode.
Yeah, it was. That's why I kind of said this was kind of bittersweet because he's paying penance. He is immortal, which is good and bad in the same vein, because sure you can't die, but you're also going to watch everyone you love die time and time again. You are going to live through all kinds of shit, and there's no way of getting away from it.
Right.
And that's not to say like he couldn't get ill as well. He may be, he may get ill or hurt his back, and he can't. He lives with
Yeah.
that for the rest of eternity.
Yeah.
But I do like the first instinct that Ginkgo has, which is to burn the entire field. He's like, we're burning this. I'm telling everybody we're burning this. You guys got to leave for a year, and then everything will be good. And the priest is like, fuck that. Fuck that. No, we cannot tell them.
Yeah, he basically says if we make people leave for a year, they won't come back, and we're really proud of our land.
Yeah. Which this land can produce, but I guess it's not really the most fertile land either.
Well, it was really like infertile when they got there, and then through the use of their farming techniques, they've made it to the point where it's like usable but not great.
Yeah, and I think when they have a really bad season, that's when they use the seed the next. That way they can have some food in store in case they do
Yeah.
have another bad harvest.
Yeah.
Overall, I thought this was actually a pretty good episode. I did like that the priest tried to repent in some way, not only towards the end, but he also tried to, out of guilt, kind of end the cycle and tell Sane again to destroy it, not tell him what this is or what it's for. But yeah, it was a pretty decent episode, and I just realized because I saw the tooth at the beginning of the episode. I'm like, oh, that's what Ginkgo's going to take as payment. I don't think he's taken any payment for any of the current episodes that we've watched.
He didn't necessarily point it out as a payment, but he took one of the snakes from the water.
Oh yeah, he did kind of get one in a jar.
Yeah. Yeah, he took that.
Yeah, I think that was mostly like a study specimen, but who knows?
Yeah.
But
That's like the
overall,
only thing he's taken though, I think.
yeah, but overall, this wasn't too bad of an episode. I did actually enjoy it quite a bit.
Yeah. It was definitely the best one we've talked about so far.
Yeah. And I think you and I can kind of agree on this. At least I assume. But I thought episode 10 was the outstanding one of this set. I really enjoyed episode 10.
Uh yeah, I'd have to say it was probably my favorite out of them.
Yeah, this one felt like a
It
good
was
return
either
to form.
between 9 or 10.
9 and 10 were way better than the first three. The first three did
Yeah.
not feel like their best, but 9 and 10 really stood out. And I'm kind of glad that I watched both of these together at the same time.
Yeah.
Going over episode 10, we once again see Dr. Adashino, and there's some kids that go into his workshop, or his, like, where he keeps all of his collections and trinkets, and they start checking out shit, and they eventually find this inkstone, and they use it. And by that I mean they pour water on it, and then they get an ink stick, and they rub the ink stick on it. And when they do that, they come down with like a serious case of the chills. Like, they have hypothermia, like super hypothermia.
Yeah.
But
It was then explained, like, once the kids get sick, it's like then explained that it was from fossilized, or made from fossilized Mushi.
yep, and this Mushi is called Kurohami.
Kumohami.
Yeah,
Tumohami, yeah.
Kumohami. And can I call out one thing real quick?
Sure.
So Dr. Adashino summons Ginkgo, and Ginkgo, based on his job, could be anywhere,
Yeah.
absolutely anywhere. And he sent him a letter, and he came quick, like very, very quick. How the hell did he get a hold of him that quick?
I have no idea, which is partially why I think these episodes aren't necessarily in order, like chronologically.
It bugs me, but I cannot remember whether or not they're in order or not. And maybe I don't even know. Maybe season 2 does explain the chronological order of these episodes, because I really don't. I really don't know. But
Because the only thing I can think of is, like, this episode took place after episode 5, like, in the timeline. So he was still relatively close.
that does make a lot of sense. That does. And I think that Ginkgo did get there extremely quickly, because what has affected these children, it's said that this will kill them within a month based on other cases of people interacting with this inkstone. So he had to have come within days at
Yeah,
most.
he had to have gotten the letter out and found him within a couple days and then traveled back. Like, Ginkgo had to have traveled back. So he had to have been really close. So he had to have been really close.
Oops,
So he had to have been.
echo. Sorry about
Oh,
that.
okay. Oh, you good?
Yeah,
But, like,
when Ginkgo does get there, he's actually kind of perplexed about the whole thing. And Dr. Adashino says that he bought it from somebody else who obtained it. So Ginkgo does track down who actually made it, and it was this woman. I'm trying to find her name because I forgot it already. I don't even know if I
so,
wrote it. Tagane.
yeah,
Tagane.
Tagane.
Agane made this stone, and she tells the origin story of the stone, how she was making these stones, trying to get the approval of her fiance. I guess so the family would approve the wedding, I believe.
Yeah,
And she makes good stones, but nothing she is very happy with. And then she finds this rock, this particular rock, which she says that she immediately takes it home and makes an inkstone out of it. And I believe her father, who probably trained her, said that this is a really nice piece of this is a really nice piece, and he rubs a ink stick on it, and she sees the Mushi come out of it, but he doesn't. And I don't exactly remember. Did he actually get sick? Was he the first case?
He was already sick.
So he probably just would have died anyway, and they kind of assumed that's what it was.
He was getting sick and could no longer work. So she was trying to like uphold the family name kind of thing and keep the business going.
Yeah,
Um, but this thing didn't kill her father, but he ended up dying not too long after it anyway. But he
but
didn't breathe it in. She was the one that breathed it in.
oh, right. Right, because that's actually explained why she didn't die, and then Ginkgo figures
Yeah.
out what actually can help these children. But when she shows the fiance's like, okay, this is actually pretty good. I'm gonna take this to my parents, and then I'll send a letter for you to come, and we'll do the
Yeah.
marriage. And I guess the parents used it, and the no, the fiance used it.
Yeah, the
And the
fiance used it to try to show the parents.
Yeah, and the fiance dies a month later. She gets that letter, but it's not the letter she's expecting. It was because they said that he died, and they were scared of this thing. They pawned it off. Who then pawned it off to Dr. Adashino, which is why he has it.
Yeah.
But
But
when go ahead.
oh, I was gonna say she was trying to find it so she could just destroy it.
Yeah, she could track it down.
Yeah.
But Ginkgo does figure out what this is when she explains the whole story to him, and he's like, "Okay, I'm pretty sure I know what's going on here." So he returns with Kagane to Dr. Adashino, and he he comes up to Dr. Adashino and he says, "Okay, I figured out what we can do for these children. We need to go up the closest and tallest mountain right now." And they've been giving water, hot water, to these kids the entire time.
Yeah, to
And
keep their temperature up.
yeah, trying to keep their temperature up. But they do get these kids up the mountain, and I guess it was because of the air pressure being less that these Mushi were drawn out because they wanted to be up in the, did he say the stratosphere was where these cumulus clouds lie?
I don't think they specifically said, but it was just like that certain altitude where clouds their specific clouds could be.
Yeah. Either way, the air pressure drew out these Mushi, and they wanted to go even higher. So they come out after they finally reach the point where it was just enough for them. And this is the one thing that I did kind of question, because Tagane did actually travel up the mountain because she was going to, I believe, the fiance's parents. Was that correct?
Hmm.
And I guess she did expel the Mushi, but I have two questions. Why didn't she see it? And two, why didn't she like vomit them out like those kids did?
So Ginkgo does explain part of this. He said that because she lived up on a mountaintop, that she probably released a little bit at a time instead of just vomiting it out all at once.
Okay, so she lived on a mountain. I didn't catch
Yeah,
that.
yeah, he had to hike all the way up a mountain to find her.
Okay.
And then she crossed a mountain, and he said that she probably got rid of the last bit of it there, but because there wasn't a lot, she probably just mistook it as like breathing in the cold, where it's just like, oh, cool, I'm blowing smoke now.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I actually kind of like that explanation because she, how do I put it? She was very much, feeling guilty because of what happened to the three people that were affected by this inkstone, and her climbing that mountain was the only thing that had saved her. Had she not done that, and had she not lived on a mountain, I don't know if this mystery would have been easily solved. Ginkgo would have had a lot harder time figuring out what was going on.
See, I don't think he could have figured it out because there wouldn't have been any like reason for him to go, hey, maybe if we go on a hiking trip. Um
Yeah, there'd
yeah,
be
I just don't I think this would have been like a tragic anime backstory ending.
yeah. Well, in the kid's condition, you wouldn't want to move them. You would want to keep them in a very warm environment, and you would want to keep them, as comfortable as possible, not drag them up a mountain. That
Yeah, it would definitely be like trying to treat the symptoms rather than knowing what the cure is.
yeah. Yeah, I definitely like the fact that she survived because, like you said, this would have been an entirely different situation had she not.
Yeah.
But I also like they mentioned that this is not the Mushi's fault, and this is something that they have mentioned before, where the Mushi are just existing. They just exist in our world, and they aren't here to harm us, and they aren't here to.
Crazy enough, the last time this was brought up was the last Dr. Adashino episode,
Yeah, yeah,
the living swamp.
and I did also notice that Adoshino seems to show up every 5 episodes. Maybe that's just a coincidence,
I mean, so far, yeah.
but I do want to mention why she found that as a stone, because the Mushi, I guess, during a drought, they condensed themselves into a stone and fell to the ground. That kind of reminded me of like a tardigrade, or also called a water bear. Um,
Mhm.
where they will go into like this super super low energy state, and they can survive for, I think it's even hundreds of years, and they can survive like ridiculous or environments like space and radiation. So
God.
that kind of reminded me of that. But yeah, she found them because they did that, and they just happened to get buried over time, and she happened to dig them up.
Yeah, was like instantly drawn to them.
Yeah. But I do want to say, and maybe you can tell me if they use this word in the sub, but they use the word reproducing when they were using the ink stick. Did they say anything like that in the sub?
Were they were they saying that the Mushi were reproducing
Yeah, they
or
said reproducing. That was the word they used, which I
hmm,
found odd.
that's not how they framed it in the sub. In the sub, they made it just seem like a ton of Mushi had been condensed and trapped in there, so they weren't reproducing. They were just getting released.
Yeah, and that makes more sense to me. They
Yeah,
because
which
at the
is why the end of the episode is her just going fucking crazy on this inkstone and releasing a massive cloud.
yeah, the
It's because she's just trying to release it and make it a non-Mushi inkstone.
Yeah, the two things that felt weird about it is that where she's getting all of the Mushi out of the stone, but when it's hailing, Ginkgo says, because Adoshino says, how long is it going to hail? And Ginkgo says, I don't know. They haven't had a meal in a very long time. If they were, in fact, reproducing, these would be the descendants of those Mushi, and therefore they would have never have eaten. So
Yeah.
that felt really weird to me.
Yeah.
And
It was them being trapped in there, and that's why they hadn't eaten in so long.
yeah, that makes a lot more sense. Why they use the word, and they used it multiple times. They used the word reproducing, and I thought that was really weird. And the other reason I thought that was really weird, because if they were in fact reproducing and she was rubbing a ink stick on the stone, she was literally rubbing them off.
God damn it. I mean, I guess you're not wrong, but like, what the fuck?
Yeah, I thought that was weird. Something didn't line up when they were talking about that, because I think that they took that translation a little bit in the wrong direction. They should have used release. They should not have used reproduce.
Yeah. See, I didn't really think we'd come across this many differences, like between the two.
And these are just the ones that we're catching.
Yeah. Like, huh.
But after she does release the Mushi, Dr. Adashino says, "I'm keeping this." And they're like, you literally have dangerous things, which, by the way, I'm gonna get really close to the mic for the emphasis on this one. Ginkgo's probably sold him a lot of those things, but Ginkgo also shames him about having very dangerous objects that he doesn't know anything about.
I think Ginkgo just likes like getting on this guy about it because when they first when he first says, "Oh yeah, it's a inkstone carved out of Mushi fossils," uh, Ginkgo's like, "Oh, a fossil? Mm-hmm, sure." And then looks at it. He's like, "They're still living."
Yeah.
He's like, "Don't buy stuff like this that have sketchy backstories."
Yeah, he calls out that it's not a fossil and that he has no idea what this is, and he calls out that he has all these dangerous things. And I don't know, like, because he seems to like give him heck about it, but he's not like, no man, like, I've got to go through your things, like, I need to figure out like what things you're gonna kill people with. He doesn't do anything like that.
I feel like it's like he has some level of trust for this guy, but at the same time, like is just poking the bear about it.
Yeah. And I think this whole episode could have been avoided if he just locked his fucking door, or whatever was where he kept these things. If he has them in a shed or something, he just locked the door, because he was out of the building. Which, sure, he lives on a oceanside village. Like, who's gonna walk in? But then again, kids are gonna walk in.
Yeah, the kids were just like, "Doctor, we broke into your house," and he's just like, "Oh shit,"
Yeah.
calling Ginkgo.
Yeah. But, and like I said, Tagane does agree that she's gonna make inkstones again, and Adashino's like, "I'll take one," because she says she'll pay for the roof damage, and Adashino is saying, "Yeah, I'll buy one," and it's like, okay, then you're paying to fix the roof.
Yeah, I don't know if he said this in the sub for or if he said this in the dub, but he says something in the sub that is just like this man does not learn. Um, he's like, "Yeah, an inkstone. If you could make sure there's some Mushi, be upset either."
I don't remember
It's
him
like,
saying that, but I might not have caught that, because I feel like that's something that they wouldn't have omitted from the dub, but I could be wrong.
yeah, he literally jokes about like getting another one that has Mushi in it because she like deleted the Mushi in his old one.
Well, yeah,
Like,
she devalued it,
yeah,
at least in his
he's
eyes.
just like, I want more Mushi. Give me.
The guy has a problem, and they both call it out.
Oh yeah.
But overall, this was my favorite episode. I really enjoyed it. Even though I didn't write as many notes on this one, I really enjoyed this one. Out of all of them, this one stood out to me by far the most.
Right. It was definitely between this one and the last one. That's for sure. I'm hoping the next set is just a stronger set.
Yeah, I'm remembering these as we go because, like I said, it's been at least 7 years since I watched these. I don't remember when I started watching this, but it was super soon after I got this house, because after I got this house, I got internet, and then after that, I got Netflix, and I was streaming it on my Xbox 360.
See, I had never watched this, and then I threw it on my Mal when your wife did the presentation for it in club. So back in like 2015, and then I just haven't touched it.
My plan to watch is like my Steam library. There's so many things I'm never gonna touch.
Yeah, I've been trying to cut mine down, and then like I'll watch like a couple, and I'm like, yeah, I'm making progress, and then the new season will come out, and it's just like, no, I'm not.
When I was
No, I'm
doing the
not.
club, I often would be watching like upwards of like 12 or 15 anime, and I had it on a schedule where it was like, okay, Monday these 3, Tuesday these 2, Wednesday flex day if I miss any of these things, Thursday these 2, and I had a schedule, and I'd actually like refer to it and go, okay, My Hero and Slime this today, and then I watch those 2 episodes, and then I go about my day, whether it was playing video games or working, whatever it was I was gonna be doing afterwards. But
Yeah,
I can't anymore. I can't keep up on the seasons. I just want to watch anime that just come up to the surface, the cream of the crop, because I've watched
I
so many bad anime.
yeah, I at this point just kind of follow like a season behind. That way, anything that I like, I can just binge.
I've actually been doing that lately, and that's how I did Promise Neverland for the most part. I
Oh, did you watch the second season for that yet?
Yeah, you and I talked about when you and I
Oh
were
yeah, we did. Yeah,
yeah,
I forgot about that.
we were discussing that when we were talking about the ins and outs of this podcast.
Yeah, that is definitely a second season. I hated the ending.
Yeah.
Absolutely hated it.
I almost think that wasn't a one-to-one adaptation. The first season was, and I don't know if the second season was a one-to-one adaptation, because I almost feel like it
Mm,
wasn't.
it definitely wasn't. So like there's like 2 whole arcs that get skipped like in the middle of what they actually show you. And then everything that they show you is like a montage is like its own whole arc in the manga too.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, they skipped a lot then.
Yeah, they did. And like one of the things they skipped was like the fan favorite arc from the manga. So people were pretty upset.
Yeah. I've watched anime before where I get this feeling that it's something's off, and then I'll kind of like do like a wiki episode manga comparison page thing, and I'll
Oh yeah,
just go
go down
through
the
it.
rabbit hole.
Yeah, I'll just go through it, and they say something like, okay, after this it goes anime only, and then picks back up on chapter 38 or whatever. Tokyo Ghoul, I stopped watching that because I watched the first and second season, and I actually enjoyed it quite a bit. And then the third season came, and Well, first off, the second season like goes, okay, these set of episodes, forget that ever happened. And then the third season's like, oh, by the way, we just skipped like everything and just roll with it. You'll figure it out. I'm like, who is this guy? Why is he referred to as Connecticut? What's going on?
So in the Discord, someone brought up that the Promised Neverland season 2 was condensed down from around 90 chapters.
Holy shit.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which Discord? Which Discord are you?
In ours, it was one of the. I just don't want to like name drop them.
Okay.
Is what it was. They just didn't want to interrupt the chat. You can like chat though if you want. We might not like mention it, but like we're kind of just shit posting at this point.
Okay. Yeah, I thought that this set of episodes, like I said, was not that strong. You can definitely agree with that. And hopefully this is another set of good episodes, because the 1 through 5 didn't have any bad episodes. I can definitely say 6 through 10 had some, I don't want to call them bad, but my ADD was going off, and if that happens, there's something off about it.
I think the worst episode in the 1 through 5 was on par with the best one in 6 through 10.
Yeah, and that's saying something.
Yeah.
But all right, let's go ahead and conclude this episode because my internet keeps dropping out for whatever reason while I'm streaming. This is going to be an interesting thing to stitch together, and hopefully the audio is a little bit better, because last time you were a bit too quiet, and so I did have to drop you a little bit because you were clipping, but it's nowhere near where you were. So hopefully you sound a little bit more closer to my audio level. This is still something that we're learning, guys. Anyone who happens upon this podcast, if you've made it this far, you're a fucking trooper, first of all. But secondly, this is just two friends bullshitting about something that we're enjoying, and we're taking you along for the ride. This is a full spoiler podcast, and I just want this podcast to be two people just talking about an anime that they're watching together, and so far think that we've accomplished that. So as we figure this out, we'll learn and we'll grow, and hopefully this and all the other episodes will be available soon on all of the podcast apps. With this episode, it's not currently, but approvals take time and everything. There is the YouTube channel and all of that jazz. I can't link in an audio form, so if you found this, then hopefully you should be able to find it elsewhere, and subscribe, all that fun stuff. And that's going to be it here. Did you have any last words, Fez?
Not specifically about this, but is it possible for us to throw like the Twitch and like Discord link into the like description of the podcasts?
Yes, okay. I can actually do that. I think I did do the Twitch link, but I believe I can do that, but I don't remember, or I don't know, depending on the podcast app they're using, it may not actually turn into a link. Who knows? RSS feeds, I've never used them. It's a big mess. I messed up the links on several of the RSS feeds, so they actually go to my personal podcast portal. So if they're able to sign in, which they're not going to be able to because I have two-factor. That isn't a challenge, by the way, but yeah. So most of the the links are actually broken. But
Hell
the Google
yeah.
one and the YouTube and hopefully Apple, those are the ones I hope to really get the approval on. And Spotify's automatic because Anchor is actually owned by Spotify, so it's automatic for that. They actually would make the podcasts automatically submit for me. I didn't want to do that because then I couldn't look at the analytics of it on a per website basis, and I wanted that even if I was never going to look at them.
I mean, yeah, that's fair.
But all right, that's going to do it for us. We really appreciate you watching. I'm used to streaming on my own, sorry.
Nah, you
We
good.
will be returning next Friday with episodes 11 through 15. So until next time, thank you very much. Have a good one, and bye-bye.